You've been lied to, my friend. From the very moment you took your first breath, a story was whispered into your ear. A story so often repeated that it became sacred. They told you that the path to freedom was paved with labor, that salvation lay in routine, and that honor was found in obedience. Work hard, they said. Save a little, retire at 65, then and only then you shall live. But what kind of freedom begins when life has already been spent? What kind of liberty is found at the sunset of strength, when the body is tired and the soul is worn thin? If 40 years of loyal service leads only to a pension too small to sustain your dignity, what name do you give that ending? Is it victory, or is it a quiet defeat wrapped in polite words? You were not born for servitude. You were not brought into this world to bow before a clock, nor to watch your dreams decay behind the fogged glass of routine. You were born with divine authority, a mind capable of creation, a will meant to command, and a purpose that demands expression. Yet the world, cunning in its design, has disguised your power beneath the illusion of security. Understand this. The world does not reward obedience. It never has. It rewards vision, audacity, and the courage to see the trap for what it is, and to walk boldly out of it. The man who escapes the invisible prison of conformity becomes the man whom others call lucky. But there is no luck in freedom. There is only clarity and action born from it. So listen closely, for what you are about to hear may strike you like lightning in the stillness of a long night. If you let this message pass by, if you continue to slumber in the comfort of routine, you may work until the grave claims your body, and still die poor in both spirit and substance. You believe you are free because you can choose your employer, because you can buy a car, a house, a phone. But choice without power is merely decoration upon the chains. You believe that hard work will pay off, yet I tell you, hard work without direction is the toil of the enslaved. You believe that loyalty to a system will one day bring you reward, but that system was never designed to crown you, only to consume you. And so I ask you, with the authority of truth, if 40 years of labor ends in dependency, who truly owned your life? Who reaped the harvest of your energy, your faith, your time? I have seen it, time and again. Men who gave their youth to corporations that did not know their names, who offered the best years of their vitality in exchange for a promise that dissolved like smoke. I have seen the trembling hands of old age clutching a pension slip, the weary eyes staring at calendars not to plan, but to calculate survival. These men obeyed every rule. They played fair. They stayed quiet. They did what they were told, and in return, they received just enough to keep them from rebelling. They waited for a miracle that never came. And when the waiting ended, there was nothing waiting for them. So I ask you again, as one who has studied both masters and slaves of circumstance, who owns the life of a man who gives it away, one paycheck at a time, until his days run out and his name fades from memory. You must understand this profound truth. Slavery has not vanished. It has evolved. It has exchanged its iron chains for mental ones. Today, the shackles are made of debt, of distraction, of fear disguised as duty. The whip is no longer visible, but it cracks all the same. It cracks in every morning alarm, every anxious glance at a balance sheet, every sigh that escapes a man who has forgotten why he began. You were told that the system works if you follow it. But what they did not tell you is that the system was never built for your liberation. It was built for your usefulness. It was constructed to harvest your time, your effort, and your belief so that another might live the life you dream of while you finance it with your obedience. I will not soften my words, for truth should never be served diluted. I am not here to comfort you, but to awaken you. Because until you open your eyes to the invisible prison around you, you will never walk free. You will keep smiling politely while you waste your years, calling it responsibility. You will praise those who profit from your submission and call it employment. You will wait for retirement, only to find that the freedom you waited for has expired with your youth. Do not mistake this for tragedy alone. It is a choice that can be unchosen if only you dare to see it. The power to break your chains lies not in protest but in perception, not in rebellion but in realization. For the man who sees truth cannot remain a slave. And so my purpose is not to soothe you, but to stir you, to ignite within you the flame that has long been smothered by habit and fear. Stay with me, and you will learn what only a few have ever grasped. You will learn the laws that have raised men from rags to royalty. The laws that Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, Schwab, Ford, and Lincoln obeyed, not by chance, but by consciousness. You will come to understand why work alone can never set you free, why retirement is the gilded cage of the obedient, why schools were designed not to awaken owners, but to manufacture employees. You will learn that your job is not a plan, it is a placeholder, a waiting room for the mind that has not yet remembered its own power. You will learn that the rich obey invisible spiritual laws that poor men ignore. You will see how your daily habits build either your freedom or your prison. You will discover why waiting is the enemy, and movement, bold, decisive movement, is the cure. And when we are done, you will stand before yourself and ask, what has my life truly produced? Have I mistaken obedience for purpose? Why have I delayed the building of wealth that could have been mine? What must I stop doing this very moment? What must I repeat every day until my liberty is no longer a dream, but a fact? If you are honest, brutally, gloriously honest, you will realize that you are not yet free. But you will also realize that freedom has been waiting for you all along, just beyond the edge of your fear. Stay with me, listen with your full mind and spirit, and I promise you this, you will no longer live to work, but work to live, and live magnificently. For the chains that bind you are in your habits, and the key that frees you is in your mind. This moment is your final warning before time itself decides for you. So speak these words aloud and let them awaken every dormant cell of power within you. I refuse to sell my life for crumbs. I refuse to work my life away and die poor. I was born to own, not to obey. And now let us step forward, boldly, consciously, triumphantly, into part 1. Work alone will never make you free. You have been told all your life that work is the gateway to success, that the harder you labor, the greater your reward will be. That sweat, endurance, and patience are the pillars upon which fortune stands. But I tell you, this is only half the truth, and a half-truth is far more dangerous than a lie. For if work alone were the secret, then every laborer, every clerk, every builder, every teacher who gives their years to honest toil would be free. Yet look around you. The streets are filled with men who labor from dawn to dusk but never rise. They are diligent, faithful, dependable, and perpetually broke. The graveyards of the world are rich with men who worked hard all their lives and died with little more than a headstone to show for it. Do not misunderstand me. Work is sacred. It is the foundation of achievement, but it is not the summit. Work without purpose is drudgery. Work without thought is servitude. Work without vision is slavery with a polite name. The man who works merely for wages sells his hours but never discovers his destiny. He measures life in weeks and years, not in growth and power. He gives his body to labor, but his mind remains unemployed. And when the mind sleeps, the spirit becomes a servant. I have watched the world worship labor as if effort alone could save it. But labor is only the seed. It must be guided by thought, nourished by faith, and directed by purpose. A farmer does not plant blindly and call it wisdom. He studies the seasons, the soil, and the sun. He understands that the seed does not grow by effort alone. It grows by intelligent effort applied with knowledge. So it is with life. The man who simply works, hoping for fortune, is like one who tills the sand and expects a harvest. He sweats, but he does not prosper. Why? Because he has not learned the science of wealth. Wealth, my friend, is not the product of labor. It is the offspring of mind. It is the result of ideas organized into plans and executed with persistence. It is born when thought and action unite under the guidance of faith. The richest men in history did not merely work harder than others, they worked differently. They harnessed the invisible forces of thought, imagination, and purpose. They understood that the power to create wealth lies not in the hands, but in the mind that directs the hands. Andrew Carnegie did not become wealthy because he worked longer hours than his workers. No, he employed his mind where others used only muscle. He studied the laws of organization, the principles of efficiency, the psychology of men. He multiplied his time by multiplying his vision. And so I say to you, if your only plan is to work harder, you have no plan at all. For a horse works harder than any man, yet owns no estate. A A machine can labor without rest, yet knows no prosperity. The world does not pay for effort, it pays for applied intelligence. You must rise above the crowd that worships toil and learn the secret that the few have mastered, that wealth flows not to those who work the most, but to those who think the best. Begin to think of yourself not as a worker, but as a creator. Each task you perform must serve a vision greater than the paycheck it brings. You must work for knowledge, not for approval, for mastery, not for mercy. Every hour spent must move you toward ownership. Ownership of your mind, your time, your purpose, and your destiny. This is the first law of liberation. Work with a plan, not for a plan. For the man who works without a plan becomes a servant to the one who has one. The world is divided into two classes, those who labor and those who organize labor. The difference is not luck nor privilege, but perception. One sees the value of time only in what he earns per hour. The other sees it in what he creates per hour. One trades time for money, the other trades ideas for wealth. If you wish to be free, you must cross this line in your mind. You must cease to think like a laborer and begin to think like a master. The moment you awaken to this truth, your entire existence begins to change. You no longer dread Monday mornings, for you understand that your time is not for sale, it is for use. You no longer beg for opportunity, for you create it. You no longer envy the rich, for you begin to study them, and in doing so, you join their ranks in spirit before you join them in substance. The law of the mind is clear. That which you think, you become. If you see yourself only as a worker, you will remain one. But if you begin to see yourself as a creator, as a thinker, as a commander of circumstances, the world itself will begin to obey your thought. So I ask you, as I have asked thousands before, are you working to live, or are you living only to work? Are you the master of your labor, or the servant of it? The man who answers these questions truthfully may, in that moment, step across the invisible line that separates the masses from the masters, the employed from the empowered. Do not wait for the perfect time to change. The perfect time does not exist. Begin now, even as you read these words, to transform your thought about labor. See your work as the instrument of your will, not as the chain of your necessity. When you work with purpose, every task becomes sacred. When you work with intelligence, every hour becomes fruitful. When you work with faith, every difficulty becomes a stepping stone toward mastery. You were not born to be consumed by your occupation. You were born to create your vocation. You are not the servant of a system, but the architect of your own success. Work alone will never make you free, but intelligent, purposeful, faith-driven work, guided by a definite plan, will lead you to the mountaintop of achievement where true liberty begins. And now, my friend, we must go deeper still. For even intelligent labor is only one part of the equation. The next secret is the one most people never discover, the law of value and ownership, and how it turns ordinary effort into extraordinary wealth. There is a law written into the fabric of the universe, as certain as gravity, as impartial as light. It declares that you are paid in direct proportion to the value you bring to the world and to the degree that you own that value. Most men fail to rise because they misunderstand this simple truth. They believe that time creates wealth, but time only measures it. They believe that effort brings reward, but effort without ownership is labor without leverage. The world does not pay you for how long you work. It pays you for how much you contribute and how wisely you claim the fruits of that contribution. You see, the man who builds a house for another is a worker. The man who builds many houses and owns them is a creator. Both use their hands, but only one uses his mind. The worker trades value for wages. The creator multiplies value into wealth. Understand this difference, for it is the difference between survival and sovereignty. Ownership is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you remain a tenant in the kingdom of another man's dream. Whether you work in an office, a shop, a factory, or even a grand institution, if you do not own the results of your labor, you are still renting your life by the hour. And the tragedy is this: most people are content to do so. They trade their golden years for a steady paycheck, not realizing that the paycheck is designed to keep them comfortable enough to stay, but never powerful enough to leave. But the masters of wealth, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Hills, the Jobs, and the Musks, They understand that value must be owned to be multiplied. They do not work for wages. They work for equity, for control, for permanence. They seek to own an idea, a system, a channel through which wealth can flow again and again, long after the hands have stopped working. Carnegie once said, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." But do not misunderstand his words. He did not mean that wealth is a sin, but that unused wealth is. Wealth is the servant of purpose, the instrument of expansion, the proof that mind has mastered matter. So ask yourself, what do I truly own? Do you own the system that pays you? Or are you owned by it? Do you possess an idea that can grow while you sleep, or must you remain awake to earn your bread? The answer to this question determines your destiny. For wealth is not earned. It is generated through ownership. A man may work 10 hours a day for 50 years and die with nothing. Another may work 10 months building a single system, a product, a book, an invention, an idea, and become free for life. The difference is not labor, but leverage. Ownership creates leverage, the power to multiply effort beyond the limits of time. One idea, well executed, can outlive you. One creation well placed can feed generations. The man who owns his work no longer fears retirement, for his work works for him. And yet so many live as if ownership were forbidden. They say, "I'm not an entrepreneur," or "I don't have the means," or "I'm not ready." These are the confessions of a man who has not yet seen his own power. You were born with the same mind as every creator who came before you. You have the same access to imagination, to thought, to the infinite intelligence that guides all creation. What you lack is not ability, it is vision. Do not wait to own something grand. Begin by owning something small. Own your time, own your habits, own your mind. The man who does not own his attention can never own his results. Every great empire began as a single idea owned completely by its creator. Every fortune began as one man's decision to stop renting his time and start building his value. Ownership is more than possession, it is responsibility. It demands that you stop blaming circumstances and start shaping them. It insists that you see every failure as feedback, every obstacle as refinement, every setback as a teacher. The owner's mind says, "Everything is mine to improve," while the worker's mind says, "Nothing is mine to change." So long as you think like a worker, you will depend on the permission of others to rise. But the moment you think like an owner, you become dangerous. Because you no longer wait to be told what to do, you begin to decide. And that decision, once made, separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Now let me reveal the silent secret hidden within this law. Ownership begins in the mind before it manifests in the world. You must own your thoughts before you can own your results. You must own your belief before you can own your business. Every man who has built a fortune began by saying within himself, "I am the master of my fate. I will build something that belongs to me." That single decision changed the direction of their lives. So make that decision now. Not tomorrow, not when the conditions are perfect, but today. Say within yourself, "I will no longer trade all my life for temporary pay. I will own my time, my purpose, and the fruits of my labor." For when a man claims ownership of his destiny, the world must eventually obey. The universe bends to the will of the determined. The invisible laws of cause and effect rearrange themselves to favor him who has chosen the path of mastery. This is not philosophy. It is the law of life. When you understand it, you will no longer chase money. Money will chase you. You will no longer beg for opportunity. Opportunity will flow toward you, drawn by your value. You will no longer live as a tenant of circumstance, but as the landlord of your own fate. And when that day comes, when your work, your mind, and your purpose align under the law of ownership, you will experience a freedom few men ever taste. The freedom to live on your own terms. For true wealth is not measured in possessions, but in control. Control over your time, your choices, and your destiny. Now, my friend, we move to the next great revelation, Part 3, the illusion of security, where we will tear apart the greatest deception ever sold to mankind, the promise that safety and stability can replace growth and freedom. You were taught to believe in safety, to believe in the sacred promise of a steady paycheck, a pension, and the illusion of a secure life. From your earliest days, the system whispered into your mind that patience is virtue, sacrifice is noble, and waiting will reward you. Work while you're young, save while you can, Retire at 65 and then enjoy your life, they said. And most men believed it. But I tell you, this is a lie so deeply ingrained that it has become invisible. It is a trap dressed in civility. Retirement is not a prize. It is a leash. It is the system's way of pacifying your ambition, of keeping you in line, of ensuring that you contribute your strength, your talent, and your years to someone else's empire while thinking you are preparing for freedom. Consider the truth. How many men retire with health enough to enjoy life, wealth enough to thrive, and energy enough to pursue their dreams? The majority do not. They arrive at the promised day, exhausted, their bodies worn, their minds dulled, their spirit diminished. The pension check may arrive, but the fire of youth, the spark of independence, the courage to create, these are gone. You see, the system was never built to make you rich. It was built to make you useful. Useful to someone else's vision, someone else's wealth, someone else's power. And so, it rewards obedience, compliance, and patience, while punishing initiative, creativity, and ambition. Do not confuse waiting with wisdom. Waiting is the thief of opportunity. Waiting is the silent killer of potential. Every day spent postponing action is a day surrendered to the invisible chains of the system. Look at the men who became free. Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller. Did they wait for permission? Did they wait for perfect conditions? No. They acted when others hesitated. They built while others followed, and they claimed what they knew was rightfully theirs. Opportunity favors the bold, not the obedient. Here's the critical lesson. Security is an illusion, and waiting is the enemy. Your job may pay today, but it does not guarantee freedom tomorrow. Your pension may promise safety, but it cannot buy time, energy, or vitality. True security comes only from ownership, knowledge, and applied action. You must reject the idea that you can trade your life for a promise. The man who waits until retirement to live is already dead in spirit. He has surrendered his years to a system designed to keep him small, controlled, and uncertain. Do you want to be a man who arrives too late, weak and weary, at the end of a long line of labor? Or do you want to claim your freedom today, while your body and mind are still strong, while your energy and imagination are alive? Wealth is not saved, it is created. Opportunity is not deferred, it is seized. Life is not postponed, it is lived in the moment of decision. Look at Henry Ford. Did he save every penny, hoping for comfort in old age? No. He built systems that multiplied value, that created wealth while he slept, that turned vision into reality without dependence on time alone. His freedom began not at 65, but when he took command of his ideas, his work, and his resources. So ask yourself honestly, are you saving for freedom, or are you merely delaying collapse? Are you preparing for life, or preparing to survive? Are you obeying the illusion, or commanding reality? The moment you understand this, a new path opens before you. A path where you stop waiting and start building, where you take ownership of your time, your mind, and your value. Affirm it now. I refuse to wait for freedom. I build my wealth today. I reject the lie of retirement. My life is mine and I claim it now. Remember this, freedom does not arrive at the end of obedience. It arrives at the beginning of courage. It arrives when you take control of your labor, your mind, and your purpose. Next, we will move into part 4. Schools do not teach wealth. They teach obedience, the silent architect of limitation that has conditioned your mind to serve rather than to lead. From the moment you first entered a classroom, you were being trained, not educated. Conditioned, not liberated. The system did not aim to awaken your mind. It aimed to control it. It did not intend to make you free. It intended to make you useful. Think back, sit down, be quiet, memorize, repeat, obey. Raise your hand for permission to speak. Wait your turn. Follow the rules. Stay in line. Do you see now what those lessons really taught? They trained you to follow, not to lead. They shaped compliance, not initiative. No man became wealthy or free by waiting for permission. No empire was built by raising a hand and hoping someone grants your voice. And yet, most men leave school convinced that obedience is the path to success. They measure their value in grades, hours, or approval, never realizing that the very system that praised their compliance was designed to limit their independence. Now consider the men who defied the system: Carnegie, Edison, Ford. They did not wait in line. They broke the mold. They rejected the rules that shackled ordinary minds. They questioned, they imagined, they acted, they built. Thomas Edison was told he was unteachable, that he would never learn, and yet he illuminated the world, not because he obeyed, but because he disobeyed. Not because he memorized, but because he created. Not because he waited, but because he acted. And the world in time had no choice but to acknowledge his vision. Schools teach order, comfort, and repetition. They teach obedience and security. They do not teach imagination. They do not teach wealth. They do not teach faith in oneself. They train hands, but they leave the mind shackled. If you are to rise, you must unlearn what they taught you. You must question the lessons of limitation. Ask yourself, why was fear of mistakes emphasized over the courage to innovate? Why was memorization valued over creation? Why was obedience praised while initiative was ignored? The obedient worker does not need wealth. He only needs enough to survive, just enough to keep showing up, just enough to remain useful to others. The free man thinks differently. The free man asks questions they never taught. Who profits from my delay? Who benefits from my obedience? What would happen if I refused to follow the path laid out for me? And when you start asking these questions, you begin the path of liberation. You begin to see that you were not born to follow instructions. You were born to give them. You were not made for desks and bells. You were made for vision, for command, for creation. So affirm it now. I think for myself. I question the path I was given. I was not born to follow instructions. I was born to give them. This is the awakening that transforms a life of quiet servitude into one of bold leadership. Next, we will move into part 5. A job is a temporary solution, not a permanent strategy, where we dismantle the false security of employment and reveal the true truth about work, leverage, and purpose. Let us speak plainly. A job is not freedom. A job is not wealth. A job is not a plan. It is a temporary placeholder for the man who has not yet claimed ownership of his life. The world has trained you to believe that a paycheck is safety, that employment is security, that staying on the clock is wisdom, but this is a subtle form of bondage. Think carefully. If your life revolves around a schedule someone else sets, if your energy and skill are exchanged for money that only exists while you labor, then your freedom is an illusion. You may call it stability, you may call it responsibility, but in reality, it is a cage with polite walls. Understand this. A job solves immediate needs, but it cannot fulfill ultimate purpose. Without a definite aim, a job becomes a coffin. It is the slow decay of potential disguised as duty. You wake, you work, you sleep, and the cycle repeats, until one day you realize that decades have passed, and the life you were meant to create has been given away. I am not here to tell you to abandon your job. That is reckless advice. But I am here to tell you to use your job as a tool, not as your master. Not as the limit of your ambition, but as a lever to build freedom. Let your work fund your vision, not replace it. Let your efforts create opportunity, not dependence. Consider Edwin C. Barnes. He began as a clerk, humble and unnoticed, yet he had one vision burned into his soul: to become a business partner with Thomas Edison. He did not despise work, he worked with purpose. Every task, every duty, every interaction was a step toward ownership. He used his job to gain access, to prove his value, and then he left it behind forever. That is how wealth is built, not through repetition, but through deliberate strategy, definiteness of purpose, and relentless focus. The tragedy of modern life is not that men work hard, but that they work without direction. They labor without ownership, without a plan, without a vision, and so they remain enslaved. If your days are spent building someone else's dream while yours sleeps, you are not free. You may have comfort, but you lack command. You may have a paycheck, but you lack purpose. Hear me now. A job is noble only when it funds your freedom. If you are still hoping for a raise instead of building streams of income, you are not yet free. If your hours feed another man's empire while your own dreams gather dust, you are still serving. Use your job, but do not let it use you. Command it, leverage it, and let it propel you toward independence. Say it aloud now. My job is not my identity. It is my tool. I use my job to build freedom. I will not trade my life for temporary pay. Once you understand this, the world changes. A paycheck becomes a resource, a job becomes a lever, and every hour is invested toward ownership, not just survival. The free man works, yes, but his labor multiplies, even when he sleeps. The dependent man works, yes, but his labor disappears the moment the clock stops. This is the moment to choose. Will you remain a worker, or will you become an owner? Will your job dictate your life, or will your vision dictate your work? Next, we will move into part 6, the spiritual laws of wealth, where we reveal the invisible principles that guide the minds of the rich before any money is earned. Let the world chase money. Let them scramble for coins, trade their hours for wages, and call it success. You, I am speaking directly to you, must understand a law few men ever recognize. Wealth begins in the mind, long before it manifests in your bank account. The laws that create riches are spiritual before they are material. No man rises until he first rises in thought. No man commands until he first obeys the laws that govern prosperity. These are not rules written by men, they are embedded in the structure of the universe itself. Obey them, and money flows. Defy them, and effort becomes struggle. Labor becomes futility, and life becomes chains. Look at the great men who built wealth from nothing. Rockefeller did not tithe out of superstition. He did so out of principle. He honored law. He structured his empire not merely on transactions, but on discipline, on order, on alignment with truth. Andrew Carnegie surrounded himself with minds sharper than his own, obeying the principle that harmony and definiteness of purpose multiply power. Edison visualized the electric light long before it existed and repeated his vision with unwavering faith. They all obeyed the invisible laws before a single dollar was earned. Faith, belief, autosuggestion, definiteness of purpose, organized planning, the mastermind principle, these are spiritual tools. They shape thought into action, and action into results. Faith is not religion. It is power. It is seeing the invisible as though it were tangible, holding your vision with such intensity that the world must conform to it. Autosuggestion is mental programming. What you tell yourself, with emotion and clarity, becomes instruction for your subconscious. Speak defeat, and your mind obeys poverty. Speak belief, and your mind obeys abundance. Speak clearly, act decisively, and the universe bends to your plan. Consider this. The poor work with muscle, the rich work with mind. One sweats without direction, the other thinks with precision. One trades time for pay, the other aligns thought with law, and in 1 year earns what the laborer cannot earn in a lifetime. You must master these spiritual laws. The law of definite chief aim, clarity of vision transforms thought into destiny. The law of faith, through autosuggestion, belief commands the subconscious to act. The law of organized planning, a map of action aligned with purpose multiplies results. The mastermind principle, alignment with other minds amplifies power beyond individual effort. The law of cosmic habit force, rhythm, repetition, and pattern govern outcomes. These laws are eternal. Disobey them and life breaks you. Obey them and the universe becomes your servant. You must live by command. You must rise before the world rises. You must speak your aim aloud. You must measure, review, and act with unrelenting rhythm. Riches are not the reward of effort. They are the reward of obedience to law. Align your mind, align your habits, and the world will respond to the authority of your thought. Next, we will move into part 7, the habit system that creates financial slavery, where we examine the silent chains that bind men daily, not through force, but through rhythm, repetition, and unexamined routines. Slavery no longer looks like chains and whips. It now wears the mask of routine, repetition, and habit. The modern man rises, eats, works, rests, and calls it life. But whose life is it really? Is it yours, or is it the life designed for you by those who profit from your obedience and your blindness? The chains are no longer metal. They are habits. What time do you wake? What thoughts enter your mind before the world speaks? Do you begin each day by commanding yourself, or by following the dictates of distraction? When your body rises but your purpose sleeps, you are already a servant. Consider the difference. The poor man drifts through his hours. He wakes late, consumes carelessly, reacts to circumstance, repeats the same confused day year after year and calls it normal, but it is slavery. Widespread, silent, subtle slavery. It does not feel oppressive. It feels routine. It feels ordinary. And therein lies its danger. Compare this with the habits of the wealthy, not those born into fortune, but those who built it. Andrew Carnegie rose early. He planned the day before it began. He spoke his aims aloud. He wrote letters of intention. He reviewed progress daily. Every hour had purpose. Every action had design. Charles Schwab mastered rhythm. Every morning was measured. Every evening reviewed. He knew that what is not measured cannot be multiplied. Edison tested one idea 1,000 times, not by chance, but by the power of structure and repetition. His genius was not luck, it was rhythm applied with purpose. Ask yourself now, what is your daily rhythm producing? Are your thoughts building wealth or distraction? Are your words precise, positive, and aligned with your vision, or vague, filled with complaint and wasted? Are your actions purposeful, or are they reactions to the needs and instructions of others? Your habits are your destiny. Here's the system that builds wealth through rhythm. Morning command. Rise before the world stirs. Speak your definite chief aim aloud. Read your daily plan. Repeat your wealth affirmations with conviction and emotion. Midday alignment. Measure progress against plan. Speak aloud. I am on target. My aim is fixed. My pace is strong. Correct drift with immediate action. Evening review. Assess accomplishments. Journal lessons. Speak your aim aloud before sleep. Visualize success as already yours. Repeat daily without fail, without excuse. This structure reprograms the subconscious mind, which is the true builder of all results. Most men fail, not for lack of intelligence, but for lack of rhythm. The law of cosmic habit force is practical. Repeated thought becomes command, repeated action becomes pattern, reinforced pattern becomes identity, and identity produces results. If you desire wealth, form the habits of wealth. If you desire power, form the rhythm of power. If you desire freedom, form the disciplines of a free man. Do not say it is too late. Command your rhythm and your life begins again. Affirm aloud, my habits build freedom or chains. Each day I command myself into power. I control my mind, my day, my destiny. Next, we will move into part 8. If you wait, you will serve those who did not. The law of movement and decisive action that separates leaders from laborers. There is a principle in life that few confront, yet it governs every outcome. He who waits serves the man who does not. Opportunity bows to action, not deliberation. Wealth does not wait for preparation, it responds to those who step forward while others pause. Look around you. Examine every street, every industry, every corner of society. The men who lead, who command, who create fortunes, are not the ones who hesitated for the perfect moment. They are the ones who moved when others were still calculating, who decided while others doubted, who acted while others searched for certainty. Life does not reward brilliance alone. It does not reward goodness, hope, or patience in isolation. It rewards movement, speed, and decisiveness. The man who steps into the storm, who chooses under pressure, who claims ground while others hesitate, that man seizes what life offers. Do not believe that time is your ally. Time waits for no one. The man who waits becomes the laborer of the man who moves. Every day you hesitate, another man acts, another man builds. Another man claims the opportunity you forfeited. And when your energy fades and your years have passed, you will find yourself serving him. Not because he was better, not because he was chosen, but because he moved. Consider Abraham Lincoln. A man of principle, yes, but more importantly, a man of movement. In the darkest hours of his presidency, he did not wait for counsel or permission. He acted. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation not when it was safe, but when it was necessary. He did not wait for clarity. He created it through decisive action. That is what free men do. They act, and the world adjusts. Most men do not fail because they make the wrong move. They fail because they make no move at all. They wait for the economy to shift, for the perfect plan to appear, for fear to dissipate, for someone else to lead the way. But waiting is not neutral. Waiting is regression. Every moment you delay, someone else gains the ground that should have been yours. Hear this clearly. Your delays are your chains. Patience without action is paralysis, is death in disguise. Carnegie acted in poverty, Ford acted while mocked, Edison acted before belief followed. Movement precedes manifestation. Ask yourself, what are you waiting for? The economy to improve. While you wait, someone else is building their own. Knowledge to arrive. While you wait, someone with less skill is taking action. Courage. Courage is not something you feel, it is something you decide. The tragedy is not failure, it is delay. Delay hands your dreams to another. Delay places your freedom in someone else's hands. Delay makes you a servant when you could have been a master. Affirm now, I act while others wait. My speed creates my freedom. I decide, I move, I build. My life is mine, and no hesitation will take it from me. Next, we will move into part 9. The man who refuses to serve, becomes the one who commands. The final transformation from laborer to leader, from follower to master of his own destiny. Understand this clearly. The world does not obey the man who merely performs. It obeys the man who commands. And no man can command until he first refuses to serve, not in the honorable sense of service to others, but in the servitude of fear, routine, wages, and the invisible chains of habit. The man who wakes each day only to serve another's vision, who waits for orders, who drowns in tasks without purpose, that man is not free. He is not fulfilled. He is not a master. He is a worker until death, a consumer until empty, a servant until forgotten. And yet, transformation is possible. Every man who commands began by refusing to obey what limited him. The turning point is self-command, not emotion, not wishful thinking, not mere effort. Command. A man who masters himself no longer obeys the world obeys him. The market bends to his value, people adjust to his belief. Wealth moves toward his aim because he moves toward it without hesitation. Listen closely. You can die as a laborer or rise as a leader. The difference is not in money alone, it is in thought, discipline, and decision. You were not born to merely work, you were born to build. You were not born to comply, you were born to create. You were not born to follow instructions, you were born to direct. Now, if you are still breathing, if you are still hearing these words, it is not too late. But this is the final gate. You must cross it or live forever beneath it. Here is your path. Write your definite chief aim, not tomorrow, now. Decide who you are, what you demand from life, and how you will serve others through your purpose. Make it bold, clear, and written. Build daily command. Trust repetition, not motivation. Each morning, read your aim aloud. Each night, declare your belief in your wealth, your power, your identity. Shape your subconscious into the man who commands. Build income streams and ownership. A man who relies on one stream is still a servant. Build systems. Create value. Let your labor fund freedom, and let ownership multiply it. Let me remind you, I walked this path. I was the son of a poor miner in Virginia. I had no inheritance, no safety net, no connections, only a mind, a voice, and a decision. I refused to serve fear, ignorance, and the chains passed down by those who had never been free. I studied the spiritual roots of wealth. I mastered thought. I acted, I repeated, and I built a legacy beyond expectation. And so can you. Refuse now. Refuse to live as if powerless. Refuse to wake with no aim. Refuse to sell your life for crumbs. Refuse to think small, move slow, or act weak. Refuse to die without building something the world cannot erase. You are not here to obey mediocrity. You are here to command. Affirm these words aloud. Let them burn into your being. I will not be a slave to any man. I was born to command wealth, not to work until death. I act, I decide, I build. I am the master of my time, my mind, and my life. This is your beginning. This is your freedom. This is the law you must live by. From this moment forward, every thought, every habit, every action is either building your command or reinforcing your chains. The choice is yours. And now, you know the path to the extraordinary. Your time is now. Walk, speak, build. Not as the man the world tried to make of you, but as the man you were always meant to become. This is your law. This is your liberation. This is your life commanded.